Okay, before we get into the video, I want to point out that my good friend and confidant, Cher, Voices Behind the Wall, she is actually doing a small mini-series on this author. She has actually had personal dealings with this author, and the author was also going to help her work on a book, a different case that Cher had been working on for 3 years, actually, with someone she was trying to advocate from. That's a long story. I'll let you go to her channel, and she's going to be showing screenshots and just talking about it in depth, about her dealings and different things with that. And I think you will find it very, very interesting. Yeah, I will drop her link right here in the description box. So yeah, go join her channel and let's get right into our video. Hello and welcome to UnJustified, where we always cover the truth, the facts, the good, the bad, the ugly, on an unbiased and sometimes very unpopular opinion. A lot of you may have already saw the live interview that the group Unmasked did with Cheryln Cadle. I personally just had the opportunity to sit down and watch some of that last night, and to say the least, it's very interesting, especially with everything that is going on right now with the name change and the talking to the attorney and all that. So I wanted to go over some of that with you guys in case maybe some of you haven't seen it and don't know about this. If you're not familiar with who Cheryln Cadle is, she is actually the author written on the Christopher Watts case. She actually went to the prison, saw him, exchanged many letters with him, and then she published this book. Then she was in trouble for this book from a different book. Anyway, the thing is now she has come back out. She's asking for a second chance with her second book, and she says it's properly edited, and instead of her just typing Chris's letters into the book like she done in the first book, it's actually photocopies of the actual letters he sent her. And she said anyone is welcome to do a handwriting analysis on it or whatever. It is absolutely Chris that wrote her these letters, which I do believe that. I do believe he done that. He actually said he done that. But the reason the first part, many people just couldn't buy what was said in the book, not all of it, is because she did just type out what he wrote instead of actually showing the letter itself. Now, that said, she said this new book, it's got a lot of incriminating and bombshell evidence that's just going to blow people away. I'll be honest with you, I did not plan to buy this book, look at this book, or any of the above. However, with it being possible more confession, yes, I am interested in this book. I'm very interested in seeing its letters. She said all letters that he did write her are in this book except for 2 small letters. And she's not putting them in there. She didn't really mention why, but I believe that would be the letters that Chris told her she could not ever share. So, she said she can talk about them, but she cannot put them in the book. So, there's that, and I believe it's the ones he asked her not to. Okay, we're going to be talking about that, and let me explain the clip you're looking at here. This is Officer Lyons' body cam. They were called to the home on August the 16th, 2018, which was the day after Chris was arrested. The bodies had already been recovered, everything. So they definitely, it wasn't part of all that. This is completely different. They were called to the house for suspicious activity they saw at the house. I think it was probably, I'm not saying for certain, but I believe it was Nate that called them and said there was suspicious activity there. Okay, that said, you're going to see lots of police presence in this clip. If you haven't saw this clip, it's very interesting, and when there's not really nothing going on, I'll be talking over it and I'm going to be discussing what Cheryln Cadle said. There is a couple of things in that I missed the first few times I watched it, and I was looking over it again last night, and it just kind of struck me as very odd. Okay, that said, I will stop talking when those parts do come up, and I want you to see them. The very first one, I'm just going to play it until it comes up because it's only like a minute into it. An officer walks up to Officer Lyons, and what he says, somehow I missed the other times I've saw this, but it just strikes me as very weird. We're going to talk about that after you see it yourself for just a minute, and then we're going to go into the Cheryln Cadle, and I'm going to continue to run this clip in the background for you to watch as I talk about the things Cheryln Cadle said in her interview.
Dog's taken care of.
At least I can tell them.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Okay, the officer is fixing to walk up. Pay close attention to what he says to her.
It's fine.
I promise. Over there. I know. I want to see you bring him out because I'm a root and holler. Trust me, because I know he's not.
He actually says, I know he's in there, and I want to see you bring him out, because when you do, I'm going to be rootin', hootin', and hollering, something to that effect. But here's the thing. Who? He knows who is in there. He said he. And he said, I know he's in there, and I want to watch you bring him out. Who do they suspect is in there? And why are they going to be so excited when they watch him bring him out, I'm assuming in cuffs? I'm going to play that little clip again so you can make sure you hear what that cop says. And then I will just let it play on through while we talk about Cheryln until we get to the one other part I want you to see.
It's fine.
I promise. Over there. I know. I want to see you bring him out because I'm a root and holler. Trust me, because I know he's not.
So as you see, that is exactly what he said. I would love to know who he's talking about. Who do they think is in there? Who does that guy want to see them bring out so bad? That was odd to me, and the first few times I watched this clip, I just didn't pick up on it. But it's definitely there. It's definitely what he says. So, I mean, take it for what you will, but there's no denying that's what was said. Okay, now I'm going to get into the Cheryln Cadle until the other part I want you guys to see in this video comes up. Okay, Cheryln, when she first came on, when they brought her on, the very first thing she said was, I just got some news just now. Before I came onto the live, she says, it is from a very reliable source. She wouldn't say who, but she said it's absolutely reliable. She said she just got word that Chris will be pleading not guilty, that he is innocent, and he does have an attorney. And I've already told you guys about him talking to the attorney, I think it was last week, and so we knew he was talking to an attorney, but we didn't know for certain what was going on with that. Well, he's pleading not guilty, and obviously he believes he has big evidence that can prove his innocence. Okay, here's another thing that is odd. During all of this, and during him talking with his attorney, and since the Netflix has came out, Nicole has changed her name. Cadle also said that in the breaking news she had just gotten is that Nicole was now rounding up a team of lawyers, and something really big was about to happen. There looks to be a connection here with the same time Chris is getting attorneys wanting to file this 35C thing and saying he will plead, and obviously he thinks he can prove he is not guilty and he was coerced into taking this plea. I find it very odd that during all this same stuff, Nicole is rushing around, changing her name, and getting more attorneys for something that is fixing to happen that's very big. So, I mean, there's no other way that you can look at it as to say she's scared. What is she scared of? Why is she doing this? Many people says, well, the Netflix is what triggered her to change her name, and I don't think so. She would have done that 2 years ago. There was nothing on that Netflix that would have triggered people towards her more than what they already know, obviously. So I don't think it had really nothing to do with the Netflix, to be honest. I think it was more so to do with the leaked phone call with Chris and the forensic investigator talking about the 35C. Now, is Chris going to be able to do this, pull this off? I doubt it. And I'm just being honest. He has gave his own confession 2 or 3 times. The one where they went to Wisconsin and talked to him, and the one even with Cadle. Very, very detailed, very, very incriminating. And it was backing up why he took the plea deal for the most part. He was just detailing what he'd done. So, how is he going to be able at all to prove that he was coerced when afterwards he come back and detailed, in gruesome detail, why he pled guilty to begin with? I don't know. I don't get that. You know, and when he took the plea deal, he was told, it's like this, Chris. You know, when you take this, there's no turning back. You know, there's no appeals. He knew all this. He was well aware of that, but he did go ahead and take it. But from what he's saying, he was coerced into taking it. What gets me And I was like, well, there's no way. I mean, it's not going to work out. It's not going to do nothing. Chris isn't leaving that prison. Simple fact of all of his confessions, his detailed, gruesome confessions, everything. But then, what struck me is, when it came out, had Nicole have not ran and changed her name, getting attorneys, all this stuff she's doing, it almost seems like she's trying to be on top of whatever Chris is doing, because she lay dormant for 2 years. Heard nothing from her at all. Absolutely nothing. And then all of a sudden, when Chris's came out that he's going to do this, then she's back. But she's back in a defense mode. Hardcore defense mode. I mean, she's just not back on just a random, here I am, I haven't done anything. She's back wide open defense. So, there's no way anyone can't really put that together. Okay, some of the things that Cadle, she said Chris never told her how, when, or where he actually had met Nicole. He never actually specified that. But he did tell her that in 2017, on the 4th of July, him and Shanann were at a fireworks show that was kind of, local to where they lived. And Nicole came up to him at this fireworks show and said, hi, And, of course, Shanann was with him, and he just immediately turned around and introduced Shanann to Nicole.
Best. It's probably best.
And he told Shanann, this is my coworker. This is somebody I work with. On July the 4th of 2017. Well, we all know that Nicole did do a Google search for Shanann September 2017. So maybe there's a connection there. Maybe Chris has knew her for up to a year. Because if this is true, and this is actually in the letters now, this is what Cadle said Chris told her. So if this is true, then there was damn good reason why she Google searched Shanann in September of 2017. Maybe Chris did know her before then, and maybe he did tell her he was separated, and then when they ran into each other at that fireworks show, he had to be like, oh God, I gotta introduce them. Well, this is my coworker. I don't know, but that's awfully odd.
Stop right there. Do not pull into the driveway.
This is what I want you to say. I'm gonna stop.
Okay, I need you to park over there. We will have the dog brought out to you.
Hey, that is the Thayers there to get Dieter. What got me is how jumpy Officer Lyons was. Stop right there. Don't get out of the car. Even though they knew the Thayers were on their way to get Dieter.
Folks are here to pick up the dog.
I'm going to stop talking just a second and let you watch this part.
Copy. So it's going to be a few minutes. They're trying to catch that dog. So.
What about is it possible to get food and all that good stuff? I know.
Probably not. No, it's not going to happen. I can't.
If possible, he has a black blanket that's usually on the couch.
He's being really uncooperative. So we're going to be lucky to get him in the kennel and out the door at this point. So. I know that's not the best news, but for right now, we can at least get him out. Meanwhile, so just hang. We'll get him to you, okay?
He said Dieter was running from him, and he's just scared. I mean, you got to think about it this way. For 5 weeks, he was just pretty much, Chris would come home from work, feed him, and put him back in the kennel. For 5 weeks, he was like alone. That's very sad. When he had never been that way, he had always had the kids there, and Shanann, and they were always a family and doing things together. And then suddenly for 5 weeks there was nothing. And then they all come back for a couple of days, and then God knows what he saw. And then all of a sudden all these strangers are in his house, and they're running everywhere, and his family's gone again, even though what he saw he don't understand. Or maybe he does, but he's scared. He don't know what's going on. I'm glad, thank God, that Frankie's got him now, and he has a very good life. I know he misses his family, and the kids, but Dieter really went through a lot of trauma. Was abandoned, and then they came back, and then it's just terrible. Nicole wasn't working at Anadarko in July of 2017, obviously. She didn't actually even start working at Anadarko until April of 2018. So it would lead one to believe that her and Chris knew each other before a good several months before she ever started at Anadarko. This fireworks show was at Thornton. Nicole lives in North Glen, and Thornton is like very close to North Glen, so it would make sense that she might would be there as well, with it being a big community event, on the 4th of July. It's just very odd that when she went up and just started, "Hi," to Chris, he immediately introduced her to Shanann as his co-worker. Well, maybe Nicole was trying to get on at Anadarko then, but maybe there wasn't an opening yet, and maybe Chris knew that the next opening she was going to get it, so that's why he just went ahead and introduced them that way. But it definitely sounds like they knew each other well before she went to work there. Cadle also said that Chris told her in a letter that he had originally planned on killing the kids and just leaving their bodies there at home and not even taking them with him. But he said what changed that is they woke back up. And she says there's going to be more about that in this book, as well as the girls' autopsies that Chris had sealed as part of the plea deal. That's all going to be in this new book, she says. She says that there's also more information in the book about Nicole that nobody's heard before. She says that Nicole absolutely did know about Shanann being pregnant. 100% she did know. And that she actually found out about it by looking on their Facebook, because she was notorious to keep a check on Shanann's Facebook. She actually followed Shanann in many of her groups and was in the same group she was in. So she knew every time Shanann posted a video or anything, so she knew she was pregnant. Chris is not the one that told her. Chris never told her that Shanann was pregnant. And from the way I understood it, the way Cadle was talking, is she did know, but she was going to wait for Chris to tell her. Chris never told her And I believe she finally confronted him with it on that Saturday night at Lazy Dog. That Saturday night, I've always said, August the 11th, a lot happened that night. It was a whole lot more than her just explaining to him how to delete his Facebook account. And there was a lot that happened that night. I still believe that fully. Said that Chris told her that Nicole would get so mad, furious, when Shanann would post videos on Facebook saying things like Chris was such a wonderful husband, person, and father, and how much she loved him, would just make Nicole furious. Which does make sense, because in Shanann's text when they were in North Carolina together, if you will remember, she was texting her friends and telling her friends that he didn't even want a picture taken together. And, you know, and even in the video, she only made like 1 or 2 videos, and it was the girl's first time at the beach. So that would have been a really big deal for her to be doing live and everything, but she wasn't. There was just only a few that she put on social media. Maybe Chris told her stop putting those on there. I don't know. Maybe he did finally tell her he don't want them on there. But she did find it very odd. There they come out with Dieter. Bless him. I'm going to stop for a second and let you watch this.
They were asking about food. I told them I didn't know if that was a possibility or not. Back up for me. Yep.
I got food. I got dog food.
I don't know if it was accessible in there or not. Okay.
I'll give free dog food at my house on the way out.
What's that?
You don't have to.
They
get
were
the dog
asking.
food from inside. I'll give them the rest of my bag.
He's gonna go look. It's fine.
I got Blue. I got the rest of the dog bag. I got 2 bags.
They don't have no, I got it.
It's okay, baby. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
Can I go talk to them? Ma'am? Can I talk to them?
As long as you stay on this side of the line.
That's fine.
Circumstance, but they got it taken care of. They got it taken care of.
We have an urban farm.
They got it taken care of. But I will tell her parents tomorrow. That you guys have the dog and you guys will take care of, that part of it. And I'm sure they'll be flying out tomorrow or something. So
Obviously, I mean, if we have proof,
yeah, I told them the same thing. They'll probably come. Honest truth, they'll probably come stay with me.
there's the dog food. That's it. That's all I need is the dog with diarrhea for the dog
Thank
food.
you guys for taking care of
Thank
this
you so
part of
much,
it and
guys.
giving at least one of us the dog.
Are we good to go? Do you guys need anything from us?
I think we're good, right, Sarge? We're good. Appreciate it, guys.
That's awesome.
All good. Good?
Yep. Good.
See you guys later, man.
Yeah, I'll talk to them and let them know what's going on. Obviously, I'm not going to call them right now.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah,
But I'm guessing sometime tomorrow they'll get in touch with me and ask me what's going on because they have no idea from there. I've been their contact since this whole thing started.
we'll be home all day tomorrow. There's no way.
I can't believe this. We went from his body and came back and I was standing. I was standing out here when he came home and let everybody in the house. And my video, right there.
That's good that you have that.
You listen to this. I don't know if you believe whatever.
I think everybody loves Dieter. He's just precious, and thank God Frankie's got him now and taking good care of him. Okay, Cadle also was talking about Leave Me Alone, Jim, Nicole's friend, And she said Chris really didn't seem like he cared much for Jim. He really just didn't even like Jim. He also said that there is more information that Chris talked to her about and told her about him, Nicole, and Jim in the new book. She was kind of hesitant when she was asked what kind of information. She kind of had a strange look on her face, and she said, well, sexual things. So I was asked about, did she think that Nicole may have been involved in the murders or was involved in the murders? And then you could tell that Cheryln was kind of like she wanted to answer it, but she was kind of scared to answer it, you know. But she did say that Chris told her that Nicole did tell him, prove to me that you really love me. You got to prove to me you really love me. And then she just went into talking about the oxy that Chris gave Shanann the first night he was in North Carolina trying to make her miscarriage. She went in and started talking about that. She said there's going to be more about that also in the new book. She said, and there was other people that was involved in that. And she also said not all of that with the oxy, from the beginning to the end of that, not all of that was Chris's idea. She said it just wasn't. It wasn't even Chris's idea from beginning to end about the oxy. And that will be in the book as well. That's very interesting to me as well. The oxy's always been a big question. Cadle also said about the dark stuff that went on in Nicole's apartment. She says that she doesn't know because Chris wouldn't share all of it with her. But she said there was a lot of sexual stuff and some threesomes done at Nicole's apartment. And anal sex. All of that was Nicole's idea. The threesomes, the anal sex, of course the dark stuff. That was Nicole's idea to do all that. Then she also went on to talk about that drink. The drink that Chris said Nicole gave him, you know, each night as a cleansing or a relaxer. And Chris said he didn't know what was in the drink, but, you know, she made it for him and he drank it. Also told Cadle that Nicole was very dark, like a dark person. And he felt that the darkness that was in her and the demons or whatever that was in her is actually what possessed him. When she started talking about the sand dunes camping trip that Nicole and Chris went on, she said that the campground that they stayed at was actually also a nudist campground, and that Chris and Nicole stayed naked pretty much the whole time they were there. They just walked around naked during pretty much the whole camping trip. Chris also told her that there was one time when they were camping that Nicole just disappeared for like an hour, and he couldn't find her. He woke up, she was not there. Now if you'll remember, Nicole said he was the one bouncing off the wall, wouldn't go to sleep, she was so tired. But Chris said that's not true. He did go to sleep, and he woke up and she just wasn't there. And for like an hour he couldn't find her, she didn't come back, and when she did come back, Chris asked her, you know, where she was at, what was she doing, and she had a crystal, and Cadle actually called it a pink crystal, and said that Nicole told him she would hold that crystal above her head and chant and talk to her dead grandmother. She also talked about how Chris told her that God gave him 3 chances to pull back and not do the murders. 3 chances. And of course, one was when Jeremy Lindstrom had asked him to go to the Broncos game on Saturday. but he ended up going to the Lazy Dog with Nicole instead. And if you listen to his interview, you can tell that he really regrets that Saturday night. He really wished he just hadn't have done that. Another reason I'll say something big happened that Saturday night. That another time that God had gave him the opportunity and he didn't take it was after Lazy Dog. Same Saturday night, when they went back to her apartment. When they got back to her apartment, something happened, because at that point, Nicole realized and started knowing that she was losing her whole grip on him. Like she wasn't his everything anymore. And like I said, she even said herself, he just wasn't there while they was at the restaurant. He wasn't focused. He wasn't interested in these apartments she was trying to find him. He just wasn't there. She said that. Well, when they got back to her apartment after the Lazy Dog, she noticed all this while they were gone. And so that night, she was talking so much, constantly to him, about being able to give him his first baby boy. So that tells me that either Chris told her it was a boy, or she had obviously saw it online, all that. And there is videos of Shanann saying, I want a boy, Chris wants a boy, and I want to make him happy. Well, that Saturday night, she was adamant, once they got home, to tell him, I can't wait to give you your first baby boy. So, leads a lot of people to believe she may have told him when she found out that he was kind of distancing himself and wasn't as into her anymore now that he had spent that week or so with his family, that she could have told him, hey, I'm pregnant. Not certain she did, but she was definitely on him, telling him that night she wanted to be the one to give him his first baby boy. Cadle says she didn't know because he would not tell her when she asked. But she said she feels in her heart, after everything he's told her, and of course we all do, that on that nearly 2-hour phone call that they had, like, before Shanann got home, Sunday night, that 2-hour phone call, Cadle says she fully believes a lot was talked about in that phone call. However, Chris or Nicole, either one, will say what was talked about in that phone call. They both say they don't even remember the phone call. Cadle did say that she feels like for sure that Chris is covering for Nicole, and that Chris told her multiple times, swore to her like multiple times, that there was some things that he just was not going to tell her. There were some things that he would take to his grave. Well, it almost sounds like, since all this was done in 19, it almost sounds like he's not willing to wait to take that to his grave. He's ready to talk about whatever that is now. He's tired of being in prison, and I guess he just, I don't know, maybe he was told, we'll help you, or we'll help get you out, or you're not going to stay there. And then when they just bailed on him, and he's like, hell with it, I'm going to talk. Cadle said that Chris did tell her that Nicole absolutely was bipolar, and she did take medicine for it. He didn't say that in his interview. He said he heard she was, but maybe it was still fresh then, and he was still believing that Nicole was writing him in an alias, and he didn't want to actually throw it out there in the public that she was. But she says that Chris did tell her it was a fact. She was bipolar, and she did take medication for it. And he said that her bipolar got worse because she was in an abusive relationship before him, and that's what made her bipolar even worse. Her relationship before him was this guy named Sean, and Sean is the one that she talked about in the text with her friend Charlotte. and the one that had quote-unquote commitment issues, and many people, including myself, believe that those quote-unquote commitment issues could have meant he was married too. Cadle said that Chris told her that it was almost like Nicole was like a paranoid bipolar, because she would even have all of her mail sent to her dad's house. So it's like she's kind of notorious for just kind of hiding out after she has these relationships with men. Because it sounds like she was doing the same thing with Sean, having her mail sent to her dad's and acting very paranoid that they might run into Sean or somebody that knew Sean or something like that. And again, she's real adamant about there is a huge thing fixing to come up with Chris and his pleading not guilty, and then also Nicole getting all these team of attorneys. She said there is a huge thing fixing to happen. What she doesn't understand is how Chris is going to explain these letters that he wrote to her. Nobody coerced him into writing them. And she still talks about when she would sit down with him in the prison and do interviews with him. She said it would just like make the hair on the back of her neck stand up. And she said when she was sitting there with him, when he talked about the murders, his eyes would just turn black, like the demon or something was still in him, and he was still possessed with whatever this was. And it's like his whole demeanor would change. Even his tone of voice, he would just speak so matter-of-factly when he spoke about the murders. And it was like he loved talking about them. He would just sit there and like turn into almost a demon. Like he's just taken over by evil when he starts to talk about the murders. Again, keep in mind, this was in 2019, so still not very long after the murders when she was seeing him and talking to him. And she said the only time she really saw any emotion from him at all was when he talked about being mistreated or the bad treatment he got when he was still in prison in Colorado. She said she told Chris in one of her visits with him that he had never apologized for what he did in any letter that he had sent her. And she said she thought that was odd, and she told him this. And he told her what he was going to do was write a separate letter with an apology in it, and that she could publish it in the book and just write it onto one of the other letters. And she said it was like almost his character would jump from one person to the next, because one minute he would say how much he loved and missed Shanann, but then the next minute it would be like something else take over, and he would talk about how much he was still in love with Nicole. She said she personally thinks that he may have Asperger's syndrome. And she talked to him about it and asked him if he had ever been tested for it before, and he said he hadn't. But he was interested, but she said, as far as she knew, he had never went through with being tested for it. And she believes that Chris, there's no way he could have done this or any of this without someone telling him how to do it and putting it into his head. That is what she picked up from the time she spent with him. Now keep in mind, she is one that sat down with him face to face, talked to him, questioned him, all of the above. So she has more of an insight into his character than obviously we do, but Asperger's, sociopath, there's many things. He actually needs a professional to diagnose him if there is a mental issue going on there. Says she absolutely believes that the murders were premeditated without a doubt in her mind, and they were for weeks before they happened. She said that Chris even told her that he had daydreamed about killing Shanann, but she thinks that planning to kill the girls came at the last couple of weeks before the murders, and that Chris told her in a letter that the girls were so innocent, and their innocent spirits could just feel the evilness that had gotten into him from Nicole. He said because when he went to North Carolina and they went to the beach and everything, that the girls really wouldn't even have anything to do with him. And that is when he decided, apparently, that he was going to have to kill them too. She also said this, and this is kind of makes you wonder what it is. She said, her words is, "You're going to be surprised about what came down the morning of the murders at the oil batteries." She said it's very sad, and it's his words, not hers, his. Then she brings up about the morning of the murders when Chris was leaving Survey 319, and then Nicole texts Chris and asks him to look up the lyrics to the Metallica song Battery. That particular search that Chris did for those lyrics is not in the discovery. I don't know if it was withheld, because I kind of think it was. It could have been something that was deleted, but I sort of think that it was part of it that was withheld, and we don't have access to. I guess if it goes to trial, we will see it, where she asked him to look up those lyrics. And Cadle goes on to say, if you look up those lyrics yourself, she says, her own words is, she says, you tell me if she didn't know what happened. Well, I know Metallica and I know the song, and I actually made a video pertaining to this incident. I'll tag it at the end of this video, and then that way you can decide for yourself. But yeah, it's very ironic that she would want him to look up those lyrics as he left Survey 319 that morning. She says another thing Chris told her was that on either August the 14th or 15th, he couldn't remember which, but there was like one of those pop-up storms that came through his neighborhood. Well, we saw that. I mean, we didn't see the storm, but we heard them talking about it as they was doing the neighborhood canvas and walking to people's houses. So we know that happened. It was either the morning of the 14th or 15th. Chris says it was actually the 14th. But anyway, there was this unexpected storm that came up through the neighborhood. And after the storm was over and everything, he walked out and looked, on his front porch. And in his yard, there was 3 garbage cans just laying in his front yard that had flew over from a random neighbor's house. And she said that he told her the first thing that came to his mind, really, when he saw the cans was, oh, that's a can for each body. So, that's crazy thought. It makes you wonder, was he still under some kind of, and I mean, I don't even know who wants to believe in brainwashing and being under any kind of certain drug, devil's breath, I don't know, or seriously demon possessed, but who would think that way? A can for each body. And obviously he voluntarily told her this because she wouldn't have said, well, did you have a storm? Was a can in your yard? She wouldn't have said that. So that was obviously something that just came out. Just very cold and cruel. And then the things that, like when he was in jail, he woke up and he saw his dead grandparents standing over him. Like, it almost does sound like he was possessed. I mean, just to be honest. And she swears, and she always says that every time she talks to anybody, how his eyes were turned black when he talked about the murders. So it almost sounds like maybe he was, So weird. Maybe that's why he got into religion so bad. Because he thought he was demon possessed. He was trying to get it out of him. I don't know. Don't come at me thinking I'm defending him, but when you put all of this together, that is all odd. She also said that she's she don't even know if what he told her now is the truth, because she feels certain that he withheld a lot of information from her. And she wonders if that's going to be what's coming out. And maybe there's going to be an all-new version of the murders with this not guilty plea that he is apparently going to do. And is this version going to be the truth and the others was a lie? Or is the others the truth and this one a lie? Well, the thing of it is, if he can't full-on prove hardcore that his new testimony is truth and fact, then it's not going to hold water. And it's got to be more than just him saying it. He's going to have to prove it. Cadle said she has experienced trauma herself since she met Chris, and she still has nightmares about him a lot. It sounds like Cadle is just convinced from what she has saw, reading his letters, sitting face to face with him, that he was possessed. And that he was possessed by Nicole somehow. And that this new religion that he's so adamant about, maybe it's got the demon out of him. I don't know. Or maybe he's just tired of sitting in prison, and if he is covering for Nicole, he's tired of covering for her because she bailed and forgot he even existed, and he's like, no, hell no. Who knows? I don't know. Anyway, this video's got a little longer than I wanted it to, but there was some things in here and some things I talked about that I thought would be very interesting to you. Some of you probably or may not have heard it. It was new to me, so anything new to me, I will always share with you guys. You guys have a great day, night, evening, wherever you may be. This is UnJustified.